guys, if you're new to Deception Bytes, hit the like and subscribe button and be sure to hit the bell to be notified of future videos. If you wish to support the channel, the links are in the description below. Now, fasten your seatbelt. Here we go. Okay guys, I'm back and it is Thursday, August 22nd, and it is 4:06 p.m. Eastern Time. I know I'm getting a very early start, and that is because I have a dinner to go to tonight and I wanted to be sure to get in at least one video, but my plan is to do another when I get home, so you can look for that. Also, if you want to be subscribed, please make sure you stay subscribed because YouTube is dropping people off the bottom of my list to keep my numbers down. So just make sure that you're still subscribed and hit the bell to be notified of future videos. All right. And we did have a few people that bought me coffee from the last video, and I don't have that list in front of me, but when I do my second video today, I will mention that because you are very, very much appreciated. And also to my Patreon supporters as well. Thank you. So let's get to it. And I've already got this brought up. I just want to check here to make sure I'm recording, and I am. So let's go and get into this first one. All right. And 10 declassified Russia collusion revelations. Sorry, I'm tripping over my words. I shouldn't be because I've already had coffee. That could rock Washington this fall. And this is by John Solomon, who, of course, we do trust, and also the president trusts him, which is a very good reason for us to trust him. So let's take a look at this. Behind the scenes, some major events were set in motion last autumn that could soon change the tenor in Washington, at least as it relates to the debunked Russia collusion narrative that distracted America for nearly 3 years. Not to mention the fact that it cost American taxpayers millions of dollars for nothing. A witch hunt. It was in September 2018 that President Trump told my Hill.tv colleague Buck Sexton and me that he would order the release of all classified documents showing what the FBI, the Department of Justice, and other U.S. intelligence agencies may have done wrong in the Russia probe. About the same time, the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, under then-Chairman Devin Nunes, voted unanimously to send 53 non-public transcripts of witnesses in its Russia review to the Director of National Intelligence for declassification. The transcripts were officially delivered in November. Now, nearly a year later, neither release has happened. And I don't know about you, but I'm wondering why. And I'm sure all of you are as well, because we're getting a little weary of all this. And maybe I'm just speaking for myself, but you know, and I realize that it takes time and all that, and there's other things that have to happen, and I do understand that, but it has been a long time, and it's been an emotional roller coaster the whole way. So anyway, about the same time, okay, we just read that. To put that into perspective, it took just a couple of months in 2004 to declassify the final report on the September 11th, 2001 terror attacks after a presidential commission finished its work, which contained some of the nation's most secretive intelligence revelations. But the long wait for transparency may soon end. The foot dragging inside the intelligence community that occurred under now departed DNI Dan Coates and his deputy Sue Gordon could halt abruptly. That's particularly true if Trump appoints a new IC sheriff, such as former House Intelligence Committee Chairman Pete Hoekstra, the current ambassador to the Netherlands, or longtime national security expert Fred Fleitz. Likewise, the president has an opportunity to speed up and organize the release of declassified information by simply creating an Office of Transparency and Accountability inside his own White House, run by a staffer empowered at the level of formal assistant to the president. That would prevent intelligence agencies from continuing their game of public keep away. And that's what it feels like, a game of public keep away. Nunes, who helped to unravel the Russia collusion farce, has identified 5 buckets of information he'd like to see released. One of those buckets, the FBI's interview reports on Bruce Orr's cooperation, was released last week. Not through a Trump declassification order, but rather through litigation brought by Judicial Watch and with heavy redactions. My reporting, including interviews with 4 U.S. officials over the last several months, actually identifies a much larger collection of documents, about a dozen altogether, that, when declassified, would show more completely how a routine counterintelligence probe was hijacked to turn the most awesome spy powers in America against a presidential nominee in what was essentially a political dirty trick orchestrated by the Democrats. Here are the documents that have the greatest chance of rocking Washington if declassified. 1. Christopher Steele's confidential human source reports at the FBI. These documents, known in Bureau parlance as 1023 reports, show exactly what transpired each time Steele and his FBI handlers met in the summer and fall of 2016 to discuss his anti-Trump dossier. The big reveal, my sources say, would be the first evidence that the FBI shared sensitive information with Steele, such as the existence of the classified Crossfire hurricane operation targeting the Trump campaign. It would be a huge discovery if the FBI fed Trump-Russia intel to Steele in the midst of an election, especially when his ultimate opposition research client was Hillary Clinton and the Democratic National Committee. The FBI has released only 1 or 2 of these reports under Freedom of Information Act lawsuits, and they were 100% redacted. The American public deserves better. Yes, we do. The 53 House Intel interviews. House Intelligence interviewed many key players in the Russia probe and asked the DNI to declassify those interviews nearly a year ago. After sending the transcripts for review last November, there are several big reveals, I'm told, including the first evidence that a lawyer tied to the Democratic National Committee had Russia-related contacts at the CIA. The Stefan Halper documents. It has been widely reported that European-based American academic Stefan Halper and a young assistant, Azra Turk, wrote as SBI sources. We know for sure that one or both had contact with targeted Trump aides like Carter Page and George Papadopoulos. That's right, I said George Papadopoulos. At the end of the election, my sources tell me there may be other documents showing Halper continued working his way to the top of Trump's transition and administration, eventually reaching senior advisors like Peter Navarro inside the White House in summer 2017. These documents would show what intelligence agencies worked with Halper, who directed his activity, how much he was paid, and how long his contacts with Trump officials were directed by the U.S. government's Russia probe. The October 2016 FBI email chain. This is a key document identified by Representative Nunes and his investigators. My sources say it will show exactly what concerns the FBI knew about and discussed with DOJ about using Steele's dossier and other evidence to support a Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, FISA warrant targeting the Trump campaign in October 2016. If those concerns weren't shared with FISA judges who approved the warrant, there could be major repercussions, and there should be. Page Papadopoulos, that's right, I said Papadopoulos, exculpatory statements. Another of Nunes' 5 buckets. These documents purport to show what the 2 Trump aides were recorded telling undercover assets or captured in intercepts, insisting on their innocence. Papadopoulos, that's right, Papadopoulos told me he told an FBI undercover source in September 2016 that the Trump campaign was not trying to obtain hacked Clinton documents from Russia and considered doing so to be treason. If he made that statement with the FBI monitoring and it was not disclosed to the FISA court, it could be another case of FBI or DOJ misconduct. The Gang of 8 briefing materials.
These were a series of classified briefings and briefing books the FBI and DOJ provided key leaders in Congress in the summer of 2018 that identify shortcomings in the Russia collusion narrative. Of all the documents congressional leaders were shown, this is most frequently cited to me in private as having changed the minds of lawmakers who weren't initially convinced of FISA abuses or FBI irregularities. Excuse me for a second. Let me just take a drink real quick. I apologize. All right. The Steele spreadsheet. I wrote recently that the FBI kept a spreadsheet on the accuracy and reliability of every claim in the Steele dossier. According to my sources, it showed as much as 90% of the claims could not be corroborated, were debunked, or turned out to be open source internet rumors. Given Steele's own effort to leak intel in his dossier to the media before Election Day, the public deserves to see the FBI's final analysis of his credibility. A document I reviewed recently showed the FBI described Steele's information as only minimally corroborated and the Bureau's confidence in him as medium. That's probably overstating it a lot. And the Steele interview. It has been reported and confirmed that the DOJ's Inspector General interviewed the former British intelligence operative for as long as 16 hours about his contacts with the FBI while working with Clinton's opposition research firm Fusion GPS. It is clear from documents already forced into the public view by lawsuits that Steele admitted in the fall of 2016 that he was desperate to defeat Trump, had a political deadline to make his dirt public, was working for the DNC Clinton campaign, and was leaking to the news media. If he told that to the FBI and it wasn't disclosed to the FISA court, there could be serious repercussions. And there should be. I mean, this is unbelievable. The redacted sections of the third FISA renewal application. This was the last of 4 FISA warrants targeting the Trump campaign. It was renewed in June 2017 after Special Counsel Robert Mueller's probe had started and signed by then Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein. Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein. It is the one FISA application that the House Republicans have repeatedly asked to be released, and I'm told the big reveal in the currently redacted sections of the application is that it contained both misleading information and evidence of intrusive tactics used by the U.S. government to infiltrate Trump's orbit. This is unprecedented in the history of the U.S., and I hope and pray that it will never, ever happen again. This should never happen in a country as great as the United States of America. Records of allies' assistance. Multiple sources have said a handful of U.S. allies overseas, possibly Great Britain, Australia, and Italy, were asked to assist FBI efforts to check on Trump connections to Russia. Members of Congress have searched recently for some key contact documents with British intelligence. My sources say these documents might help explain Attorney General William Barr's recent comments that the use of foreign intelligence capabilities and counterintelligence capabilities against an American political campaign, to me, is unprecedented. And it's a serious red line that's been crossed. Yeah, an understatement for sure. But this by John Solomon, and it outlines what we're waiting for. We need this information to be made public, at least in its redacted form, and hopefully lightly redacted, not totally redacted, as some of these documents have been. That helps no one. All right, let's go back now because there's lots of stuff to get into and I took too long on that. Now, this is interesting and I want you guys to be aware of this, okay? Some of you are parents, some of you are grandparents, and you should maybe let people know that this is happening, okay? Now, police are investigating after a mother claimed 2 strangers posing as Child Protective Services agents arrived at her house in an attempt to take her 4-year-old son. So be aware of this. that this is happening. And, you know, if you're a grandparent, let your son, your daughter know that this is happening, because it's unbelievable. Jesse McCombs of Marysville, Washington, said that at around 7:30 on Monday morning, a woman followed by a man approached her home. They were both professionally dressed, McCombs said, and the woman did all of the talking. She said, hang on here. She said she was with CPS and that she was there about my son's injuries and that they were to take him into protective custody, McCombs told CIRO7, adding that her son did not have any injuries. Thought for sure she had the wrong house until she told me his name and birthday, McCombs continued. I asked her, can you show me some identification? Can you show me this order that you supposedly have? She refused to show me that. Their refusal to show McCombs proper identification was a major red flag for the mother, and she started to panic. She believed the two were attempting to snatch her child and went to dial 911. At that moment, the woman said, we'll come back later, according to McCombs, and left in a hurry. McCombs told CIRO7 that the two drove a black Ford Crown Victoria, but that she was unable to see a license plate number. A spokesperson for the Department of Children, Youth, and Family said in a statement for CIRO7 that it does not have an open case involving McCombs. In situations where a child must be removed from their home, DCYF staff are accompanied by law enforcement. The statement read in part, DCYF staff always carry agency identification and cannot remove a child from their home without a court order signed by a judge or by law enforcement taking a child into custody per RCW 26.44.050. Maryville police are currently conducting an investigation and have received no additional reports of CPS imposters. They'll probably move on to another area. Neither DCYF nor McCombs immediately responded to Yahoo Lifestyle's request for comment. So I think this stuff is happening more and more. And you hear of all sorts of things going on. They are actively trying to snatch children from wherever. Pay attention to your child. If you're at a mall, I've seen all sorts of video of people unsuccessfully trying to take children. And thank goodness the mother or father or whoever was guarding the child, reacted quickly. But I've also seen videos where the reaction was not so quick and it didn't end well for that child. So I don't know. This has gotten to be a very, very sick society, and we have to protect our most vulnerable members. And children are no doubt and the very elderly are our most vulnerable citizens, along with any mentally handicapped or whatever. We do need to protect these people as a society, because it's a very, very sick world that preys on the innocent. It really is. But unfortunately, that's the world we're living in right now. All right. Now, I wanted to get to this as well. Look at this. This will make you angry. It did make me angry, because it seems like all these people go into the White House with hardly anything, but they come out filthy rich. And they enrich themselves on the back of the American people. Look at this by Dinesh D'Souza. Isn't this familiar? Isn't this the familiar progressive story that applies to the Clintons, Obama, Bernie, and others? They all came to public life professing to do good for others and went on to do very well for themselves. Barack and Michelle Obama are buying $15 million estate in Martha's Vineyard. $15 million. Now, okay, that's probably a bargain for Martha's Vineyard, but come on. Really? The president of the United States only makes around $400,000 a year. Now, Trump, and a lot of people don't know this, you tell them that and they're surprised. He gives away his entire salary that he makes as president. He doesn't take a salary. Well, he takes it, but then he gives it right back to a government agency that is in need of that money. So on $400,000 a year, how are these people getting so rich? I hear, excuse me for a moment, I have to intervene here. Yeah, that was Xander, and Xander has gotten to be a very naughty kitty. Yesterday, really, I thought I would lose it. I didn't, but I thought I would because he knocked over a crystal lamp and broke the light bulb off in it. It took me about an hour to clean out all the shards from inside and get it working again. He knocked things off the counter. He dug in my plant. Oh my gosh. And he was in a cage for a long time before I adopted him, and he is starved for affection. And I give him lots, I assure you. And so does Sammy. Sammy plays with him all day long. But he always wants more. And whenever I record, it's like he's like, no, pay attention to me. It's all about me. So, yeah, I hope he grows out of that. I really do. But he's still a sweet cat. All right, now let's look at this. These are 3 things that I had covered in my second video, but it was, halfway through the cat chomped through the cord. So that would be Xander. All right, let's look at this because this is important. Yes, it is. And not the fact that Kelly Clarkson lost 40 pounds of fat with this pill. Right, sure she did. Okay, the mooch betrays the president, and America joined Clintons and Rothschilds at Martha's Vineyard last weekend. Well. Yeah. The self-described mooch, Anthony Scaramucci, joined Bill and Hillary Clinton and the Rothschilds at Martha's Vineyard last weekend. Oh, that sounds like such a good time. No, it doesn't. No. I'd rather have my eyes dug out with spoons, to tell you the truth, or my spleen ripped out by a hungry bear. So let's just take a look at this. For a while now, the 2 men have also been celebrating their birthdays together, courtesy of their friend, Sir Evelyn de Rothschild of the Imperial European banking family, and his wife, Lynn Forster de Rothschild, a former telecommunications executive. The latest party was held this past weekend on Martha's Vineyard at Bag of Hot Backs, the Rothschilds' tasteful estate. Why do they add that? Tasteful estate. At least it's not tasty, but tasteful. It's tasteful. Estate in Edgartown. It has been featured in many a Shelter magazine and included quite an A-list cast of characters, including many Democratic Party stalwarts. That surprises exactly no one. All right. Hillary Clinton was there with her husband, of course, as was John Kerry. Hey, John Kerry, why the long face? Well, you know, he's got a long face. Never mind. The former Massachusetts Senator and Secretary of State who recently moved to the Vineyard from Nantucket, so too were Mark Warner, Democratic Senator of Virginia, and Terry McAuliffe, the former governor. Billionaire Carlos Slim, the Mexican businessman who owns a large stake in the New York Times, made an appearance. Harvard professor Henry Louis Skip Gates Jr. Was also in attendance, according to videos sent by a source, although another Harvard professor, Alan Dershowitz, who has attended the party in the past, was not. Notably absent from the celebration were any traces of Barack Mishel Obama or Valerie Jarrett, President Obama's senior advisor, who also vacations on the vineyard at this time of year. As the evening progressed and most everyone was getting deeper and everyone was getting deeper and deeper into their cups, meaning they were getting a little tipsy. It was time to sing. Oh boy, would I ever love to have been there. No, I'm lying. First came a rousing rendition of Lift Every Voice and Sing. You know, if this wasn't, from a source that I trust, I would think that this was maybe a parody account. I just can't see these people sitting around and singing. Drunk. Anyway, First came a rousing edition of Lift Every Voice and Sing, often referred as the Black National Anthem, based on a 1900 poem by James Weldon Johnson and set to music 5 years later by his brother. Jordan and Clinton led the assembled group in song. Next up was an even more exuberant rendition of America the Beautiful. It is hard not to be inspired watching the videos. I'm sure that was said sarcastically. Yeah. Joining in the song and celebration this year was none other than Anthony Scaramucci, aka La Mooch, who was making his first appearance at the event. Mooch's presence among the Democratic Party royalty is especially notable, given that he's in the midst of a high-profile attempt to defenestrate his former boss, Donald Trump, from the White House and to defeat him at the polls in November. Right. Okay. Yeah, we're all going to vote for the Mooch, aren't we? No. Anyway, yeah. So let me see here. Where did I go? Well, I'm right here, really, but I lost my place. Yeah, he hopes to defeat him at the polls in November 2020 by organizing what he hopes will be a primary challenge against the president. Not surprisingly, their feud has taken a nasty turn, especially on Twitter, where Trump has publicly attacked Scaramucci's wife. "I made a mistake supporting Donald Trump," Scaramucci tweeted on August 19th. "I don't need to be absolved of that, but now I will do what it takes to make things right." Okay, whatever. This past week, Scaramucci made headlines again, this time not for his passion for President Trump and those who voted for him, but rather for disturbing hits on the president and his followers. On Sunday, Anthony Scaramucci went on Media Buzz and accused Trump of being a cult leader and his supporters of being cultists. Right, because that's what makes a successful cult leader is, a cult leader that implores his followers to think for themselves. Yeah, that's what every cult leader does. On Monday morning, President Trump tweeted the following in response to the Mooch's actions. "Anthony Scaramucci is a highly unstable nut job who was with other candidates in the primary who got shellacked." I love that. Got shellacked. "And then, unfortunately, wheedled his way into my campaign. I barely knew him until his 11 days of gross incompetence, made a fool of himself, bad on TV, abused staff, got fired, wrote a very nice book about me just recently. Now, the book is a lie? Said his wife was driving him crazy. Something big was happening with her. Getting divorced. He was a mental wreck. We didn't want him around. Now fake news puts him on like he was my buddy." As we look back at the post from Jack Prosobic on Twitter from May 2018, perhaps there is more to the Mooch's madness than meets the eye. Prosobic noted in a tweet that Stefan Halper sent an email to Carter Page where he insinuates that Page will have some relief knowing Scaramucci will be accommodated in the White House. And here is that tweet. Massive. Stefan Halper was spying on Trump even after he became president. Did Rosenstein authorize? And here, this is from Steph Halper to Carter Page. "Dear Carter, I thought I'd write as the summer wears on to ask how you are and what your plans are at this point. It seems attention has shifted a bit from the collusion investigation to the contretemps within the White House and how or if Mr. Scaramucci will be accommodated there. I must assume this gives you some relief. We are here in Virginia enjoying a warm but quiet summer. Be in touch when you have the time. Would be great to catch up." Right. We don't know what this email from Halper means, but it sure looks like Halper was insinuating that Scaramucci was working on the same team as Halper and Page. We know that Halper was not on the Trump train. We now know without a doubt that the Mooch isn't either. So interesting little article. And let's go back here because there is so much more. Let's look at this. Or not. Here we go. Yeah, medieval diseases emerge in Los Angeles as rats spread disease on filthy streets. Well. Filthy conditions on the streets of liberal Los Angeles have created a breeding ground for medieval disease to spread, according to a new report. An explosion of rats in LA, California has led to a surge in cases of typhus and may be paving the way for a public health crisis. Well, what else do they think is going to follow? There have been 124 cases of typhus in LA County this year, according to Reform California. That's only confirmed cases. Do you really think homeless people are going to be going to the doctor? I'm just saying. I'm sure there's clinics, but a lot of people, not all, of course, especially in Los Angeles, because, a lot of people have they're working, but living on the street, but they can't afford rent. So it's not all mentally ill and substance abusers that are on the street, but there are a good many of substance abusers and mentally ill people that are on the streets, and they are not likely to seek medical attention. So maybe a better indication would be how many people have died. Maybe they should be doing autopsies on these people instead of just shoveling them into a landfill somewhere. Okay. Aside from the increase in typhus cases, experts fear the return of a disease that wiped out a third of Europe in the 12th century, the bubonic plague. According to the Daily Mail, though the city has only 3 confirmed cases of the plague in the past 40 years, the conditions on the streets of LA make it a perfect breeding ground for plague-carrying rats. The reason for such a large influx of rats is largely attributed to the city's increasing homeless population. According to Daily Wire, people living on LA streets grew by 16% between 2018 and 2019, and yet they're a sanctuary city, and they're wanting all these illegals to come, and they don't even have a place to house the people that are already there, that are American citizens. 16%. It grew in 1 year. 1 year. That's almost 20%. Like, at that rate, what are they going to do with all these people? And they're not cleaning up the streets. I don't know what the politicians there are doing. Obviously nothing. It's unbelievable. And yet they say, oh yeah, let more immigrants. Not that I'm against immigrants. If they're properly vetted and go through the proper process, great. Welcome to America. But illegal immigrants, I don't know why they deserve special privileges and our taxpayer money. Why? Clean up the homeless situation, then, you can address that. But this is unbelievable. Okay, so they added that the amount of people without somewhere to live has caused sanitation in problem areas to fall short, with trash and feces piling up on the street. These conditions can attract rodents and cause a perfect breeding ground for rat-borne diseases. California's Governor Gavin Newsom acknowledged the city's severe sanitation problem, astonished that a medieval disease could be making its round in a modern city like LA. Typhus is most likely to be found in people in close proximity to rodents, but other stray animals like cats and opossums, I don't know why they call it opossums, because everybody just calls it a possum, also carry the disease. Symptoms typically begin within 2 weeks of exposure and can include chills, nausea, vomiting, body aches, loss of appetite, stomach pain, and rashes. Without treatment, typhus can eventually lead to organ failure and death. But if somebody is on the streets and they die, are they going to know that they died from typhus? No. Are they going to waste money? Well, their idea of wasting money, doing an autopsy to find out why this person died? No. They'll say, well, this person was on the street. They don't have family. They don't have anybody. They don't have a job. They're probably a substance abuser. So, who cares? So I don't believe that these statistics are right. I mean, just thinking about this logically, it can't be right. So anyway, the most famous symptom is a large pus-filled, plague, though not as deadly as it was 600 years ago, can still be fatal if left untreated. The most famous symptom is a large pus-filled swelling, or bubo, which grows in the groin or under the armpit. I hate when I have pus-filled swellings under my armpit or in my groin. I'm just saying, that's not something that anyone wants to aspire to. This is usually accompanied by seizures, muscle cramps, fever, and chills. So this is an alarming situation there, and it's amazing to me that these politicians in California, not all, but the vast majority, are just wah, 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 wah all the time, but yet They want to run America, but they can't even run their own neighborhoods. I don't get that. Do we want the rest of America looking like that? And I am not talking there are very good citizens of California that are suffering along with everybody else because they are conservatives. They don't want this, and I get tired of people saying, oh, we should just cut California off and let those people die. And I hate that. There are good people in California. A lot of good people in California. They don't like what's happening to their state any more than we do. My gosh, they like it less because they live there. So we have to be careful of that. And people on social media and everything, when they talk about the earthquakes, oh, great, I hope they all die, fall off into the ocean. How do people even think that way? People that think that way are just as diabolical as the people that they rail against. Really. Anyway, that's enough of that hobby horse, and let's go on because I want to get to a couple other things. Now, somebody sent this to me, and I'm grateful that they did, or they put it to my attention on Twitter, because this is very interesting. It's a Google patent. And what is this Google patent for? It's the use of blood in the cement, mortar, and concrete industry for obtaining a lightened material. Well, when I think of the cement, mortar, and concrete industry, I think of Cemex. Yeah, tied to Nexium, tied to all sorts of things. The abstract, the present invention relates to the use of blood in the construction and building industry, whereby blood and extracts of blood containing hemoglobin are used as air entering air and training colloids. The recommended process for preparing a lightened material consists in associating a construction element chosen from the cements, mortar, and concretes with at least one air entraining colloid chosen from whole blood globules, red blood corpuscles, and hemoglobin. The invention also relates to the lightened material obtained according to this process. What? Where are they getting this blood from? I'm just saying. Where's it coming from? Is it coming from animals? Is it coming from human beings? Very, very interesting. So, classifications, compositions of mortars, concrete, or artificial stone containing inorganic binders, or the reaction product of an inorganic and an organic binder, e.g. polycarboxylate cements containing hydraulic cements other than calcium sulfates. And it says, it has worldwide applications. Well, isn't this interesting? And this is the patent US 4203674A. Look it up, people, because it is out there and you can download a PDF for your very own. Let's see what else here. And in 2019, it was, this is from 1976 and 1977, application filed by Charles Leilman, and the application was granted in 1980. And 1980, there was the publication of this patent. And 1997 was the anticipated expiration of the patent, meaning anybody could use it. And in 2019, 8/22, application status is expired, lifetime. So, isn't that interesting? Anyone can use this. The present invention relates to a novel use of blood, and more particularly to the application of blood in the cement, mortar, and concrete industry as means for lightening the constructions and for increasing heat insulation. It also relates to the process for the preparation of light material with the aid of blood, as well as to the products obtained according to said process. Conventional concrete is known to have a density of the order of, whatever. I'm not into all that. But one of the aims of the invention is the obtaining of light colloidal concrete and of light colloidal mortar by means of blood or blood extract. The state of the art relative to light colloidal concrete is described in the articles by Messrs. Okay. Oh, look at this. Furthermore, it is known that blood or the hemoglobin has already been used in the construction industry without, however, obtaining a lightened material. British patent number 522172 has proposed hemoglobin at a concentration of 2 to 5% by weight with respect to the weight of the cement with a view to preparing a self-hardened material, and French patent number 376406 in 1907 and British patent number 19183 in 1911 recommended the use of blood as coloring matter, the blood being used in this case in large quantities. Okay, this is, yeah, well, there's more there, but I do have to get a move on it here. And let me see, because this is what somebody sent me. Says by Gigi Balia, did you know there's a patent for a lightweight cement mix containing blood? I heard that Cemex is using this, but don't think it is confirmed. I would assume that they are. It's the biggest cement, at least in the U.S. I don't know where, I think there are other places as well. But you can bet they are. There are many satanic bands using blood as mortar in their songs, albums. Ancient Chinese buildings are held together with rice, sugar, and blood. So, isn't that interesting, considering what we know about Cemex? They might have a use for all that, don't want all that blood to go to waste, do they? Certainly not. Now, I want to do one last thing, and then I do have to go because, well, I have to go, and hopefully I will be back later this evening. But let's look at this. Now, this from Newsweek, and I find this a little odd. And you know why? Well, I'll tell you why. Because I think they're trying to normalize this in advance of coming revelations. That's what I think. Now, there are people that have been trying to do that, like Katy Perry and her songs. I can't remember what that, Bon Appetit, you know, and she also was, she also stated to a French interviewer that she said, I don't know what's so taboo about it. I mean, it's like the last taboo, but it's good. So she's obviously tried it. Right. Now, vulnerable spadefoot tadpoles eat their smaller competitors to speed toward toadhood as quickly as possible. Gulls and pelicans are among bird species that eat hatchlings for food or to prevent the spread of disease. In insect species such as the praying mantis or the Australian redback spider, males offer their bodies as a final gift to females after mating. No, I don't think they're offering it as a gift. I'm just saying. It's more common than you'd think in mammals too. Many rodent mothers may eat some of their young if they're sick, dead, or too numerous to feed. Bears and lions kill and eat the offspring of adult females to make them more receptive to mating. Chimpanzees sometimes cannibalize unlucky rivals, usually infants, seemingly for the mere opportunity of some extra protein. For humans, though, cannibalism is the ultimate taboo. In fact, our aversion to, I'm not going to say this word any more than I have to, towards, I don't know what else I can say, I'm just going to call it C. Our aversion to C is so strong and consent and ethics count for little. It's so strong that consent and ethics count for little. So they're saying, oh, well, this is so innate. It's so within us. And the urge is so overwhelming that, our consent, about it happening, or our ethics about it being morally wrong, that doesn't matter because it's just so innate in us. It's overpowering desire. Well, I'm sorry. I've never had that desire, and I never will. And, you cannot compare human beings to animals. But I don't know. I don't even know what to say about this because it's just so diabolical. In one of our experiments, participants were asked to consider the hypothetical case of a man who gave permission to his friend to eat parts of him once he died of natural causes. Participants read that this occurred in a culture that permitted the act, that the act was meant to honor the deceased, and that flesh was cooked so that there was no chance of disease. Despite this careful description, about half of the participants still insisted that the act was invariably wrong. Only half? Now that shocks me. Only half? Are you kidding me? Unbelievable. There's a reason why we don't consume other humans. There's a reason for that. It causes all sorts of diseases like Kuru. Ask Hillary. Anyway, I'm not saying that she has it, but she does have some weird symptoms. Participants read that this occurred. Okay. Okay, I already read that part. Let's come down here. Even in the starkest of situations, the act of eating another human's flesh remains almost beyond contemplation. Survivors of the famous 1972 Andes plane crash waited until near starvation before succumbing to reason and consuming those that had died. One survivor, Roberto Canessa, felt that to eat his fellow passengers would be stealing their souls and descending towards ultimate indignity, despite recalling that in the aftermath of the crash, he, like many others, had declared that he would be glad for his body to aid the communal survival mission. So anyway, the tragic anecdote above illustrates why humans are the exception to the animal cannibal rule. Our capability to represent the personalities of the living and the departed is unparalleled. This deep connection between personhood and flesh can mean that careful reasoning in certain situations over the merits is overridden by our feelings of repulsion and disgust. So why are disgust for human and not other animals, consuming humans and not other animals? William Irvine, a philosopher, has us imagine a ranch that raised plump babies for human. Oh my gosh, this is awful. Much like we fatten and slaughter cattle for beef, he suggests the same arguments we apply to justify the killing of cows also apply to babies. For example, they wouldn't protest and they're not capable of rational thought. I think they are. Although Irvine is not seriously advocating eating children, the scenario is useful for illuminating our bias when considering the ethics of C. From a young age, we tend to think about categories such as humans or cows as having an underlying reality of essence that cannot be observed directly, but that gives a thing its fundamental identity. For example, humans are intelligent and rational thinkers. We have personalities and a desire to live, and we form bonds with each other. Now, I'm going to have to, because I've got to go, but I will leave a link to this in the first line of the comments for you to peruse. And I do have to get going because, well, it's time to leave. So I will be back. Hopefully, I will be back later this evening with another video. All right. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you guys, and stay safe, stay well, stay blessed, and keep seeking truth, because you know the drill by now. I was going to say good night, but it's not night yet. What do I say? Good afternoon? Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening? I don't know, but signing off for now. Bye-bye.